Welcome to Levine Museum, the New South, and thank you for joining us. Tonight's program is part of our regular New South for the New Southerner programs in which we aim to introduce newcomers to interesting aspects about the history of the New South. We normally have historians come in and talk about their books and some exciting research they're conducting in the region, but tonight we have a national award-winning sports journalist, Scott Fowler, a special treat. Fowler hails from right down the road in Spartanburg, South Carolina, and is a graduate of UNC. And we can honestly say that we're glad he chose the real Carolina. He joined the Charlotte Observer in 1994 and has covered the Carolina Panthers since their inaugural season in 1995. This past season marks the Panthers' 26th official season, and Levine had planned on doing a program on the Panthers' history to mark the completion of the 25th season, but COVID happened. And so we're unhappy that you cannot be with us or couldn't be with us early in the year to have a party and celebrate with good Mertz food. But we wanted to do this program because the Carolina Panthers are so important to Charlotte's history. Now, it's often said that journalists are responsible for writing the first rough draft of history. And as a historian who studies the press, I cannot express how much newspaper articles have meant to my research. But with that being said, no one can write a history of the Carolina Panthers without exploring Scott Fowler's work. I've read lots of books in my lifetime, but I can honestly say, being a huge Carolina Panthers fan, I have probably read a lot more Scott Fowler than any other author. So this is an honor for me to welcome Scott Fowler to the Levine Museum of the New South.
Thank you, Willie. Great to see you tonight, and great to see everyone that's joining us too. I'm sorry also that we're not eating some delicious Mertz Heart and Soul, one of my very favorite Charlotte restaurants. But
oh yeah,
we'll hold you to that at some point. We'll go there and get one of those beautiful cakes that are under those glass tins. I'm thinking about that right now. But thanks for having me.
That's a plan. We're going to get it done. All right. So do you want to go ahead and start? So you can share your screen if you'd like to start with the program. All right.
Yeah. Thanks. I will. So let me tell you guys what I'm up to tonight. And so hopefully we will make this fun for you, because after all, sports is supposed to be a pleasure,
right? And
sometimes it is, and sometimes it isn't. But we are going to make this fun. I'm going to show you a bunch of. I have been there a long time. Check out all this gray hair. Okay, I've been at the Charlotte Observer for 27 years now, I think, and much of that time has been covering the Carolina Panthers for the Charlotte Observer. So, and I think I'm thanking the Observer in advance tonight for letting us use a lot of these vintage photos. We've got some great ones to show you. And so, yes, thanks also to the Levine Museum of the New South for having me. This is a real honor for me. I love that museum. I've been in that museum many times. It's a gorgeous place. If you haven't been, you really owe it to yourself to go when it is open and we're COVID free and everything else. But so we'll start with the next slide. Here is one of the types of pictures I'm talking to you about. If you are a longtime Carolina Panther fan, you will recognize Kevin Green on the left, and that's Lamar Lathan on the right.
I couldn't figure out who that was earlier. I was wondering who that was. Yeah.
They nicknamed themselves Salt and Pepper back in the 1996 season, which was Carolina's first really great season. And this picture to me is a little bit poignant as well, because Kevin Green died in December at age 58. And so these two were very close. It was one of the real bonds of the team. And here they've dressed up. This was for an Observer photo shoot. These guys both enjoyed doing stuff like this. And so they both dressed up as Santa Claus for us. And of course, Willie, what they're doing here is they were kind of sack masters, and so they've got sacks.
Right. Now, did Kevin Green, was he one of the? Were we able to draft him as a part of the expansion draft? How did he get here? Because this is '96, 2 years in.
So that's a good question. The team started in 1995, so Kevin didn't join until the second year. He was signed as a free agent. Mm-hmm. By the time he was signed as a free agent for pretty good money,
Right.
He was, oh gosh, 35 years old or something. He and Sam Mills were both in their mid-30s when they were starring for these teams. Lamar Lathan came the same way. He was not drafted. These guys were both in their, Lamar's a little younger, but they were both nearing the end of their careers. But had just a lot of juice left for these first few seasons. Yeah.
And really celebrated careers. I mean, if you're talking about someone like Kevin Green, particularly.
Hall of Fame. Yeah, Kevin made the Hall of Fame. He did. So should you believe anything I say tonight? Well, now this is one of my favorite pictures. It was taken by one of our photographers like back in '97. Check the spelling of credibility here out for all you English majors out there. No creditability.
Right.
Fire Fowler, keep Kerry. That was a reference to Kerry Collins,
right,
who I had written a critical article about, and he had gotten on the radio criticizing the criticism. And back in the day when they could have, they can't have banners anymore in the stadium. But back in the day, you could. This where they had a couple Fire Fowler ones. So that's a badge of honor for me. Hopefully my editors aren't watching tonight. Don't get any ideas.
I saw this slide earlier, and I imagine, you're charged with being this objective journalist, and you're supposed to write about the direction or the state of the Carolina Panthers, and you have to, give your honest opinion. And you probably often got a lot of pushback from fans, particularly those fans who had their favorites when you suggest that the team maybe needs to move on from one player to another. I imagine you got a lot of pushback. Talk about that experience.
Yeah, that is a good point. Journalists for a hometown team, there's a delicate balance there, but basically you cannot be a cheerleader. And I think some people don't really understand that. They figure that the journalist should be, if the team loses, if the Panther loses, well, you should blame the referees or something. Right. But no, you cast blame where it goes, and you give credit where it's due, and you're independent. I kind of call it the broccoli and the teeth rule. If your best friend has broccoli in their teeth and they're about to give a presentation like this, you should tell them, right? So I try to tell the Panthers if they have broccoli in their teeth, it is not always appreciated. But then that way, I think when I praise them, they understand this isn't the team website. We're not going to praise them all the time. We're trying to be objective. All right. So here's a little history. Think about this for those who are watching. What would you say the best and worst play are? Here's the best, in my opinion.
Of course.
This is Steve Smith scoring in the playoff game against St. Louis on the way to the Super Bowl, the very first Super Bowl at the end of the 2003 season, scored on a play called X-Clown in double overtime. I was there. Still probably the best Panthers game I ever saw.
I remember it. I was living in Baltimore in grad school, and again, football, as you said at the top, it's a way to release, the stress. I was in grad school working on my master's. And I remember when Steve Smith caught that ball and ran across the field. I mean, it cut down through the middle. I was elated. I was talking so much trash to all my friends who were not Panthers fans. It was, a great game.
I think a lot of Panther fans share your sentiment.
Yeah.
So let's go from that to what I consider the worst play in Panthers history. Remember this one?
Oh, yeah.
This is Cam Newton. Now, look at that, guys. Doesn't it look like Cam Newton should recover that football?
Right.
I mean, look how close he was. This is in the Super Bowl. At the time, the score was 16-10. The Panthers are behind. This was a third down play, so if he recovered that, they were still going to have to punt. But it was a one-score game in the fourth quarter. And Cam, for whatever reason, and Cam was a super courageous player, but for whatever reason, this play, he made a business decision and didn't jump on that. He backed up, and the ball ended up going to Denver. Denver scored, and that was the end of the Panthers' second Super Bowl chance.
Yeah.
A team I really think, honestly, Willie, the Panthers would have beaten Denver probably 7 out of 10. But they caught them on a day where they just couldn't get it done. And it was a lot like the Super Bowl we just saw, honestly, where the defense really dominated.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, that football was a missed opportunity. This was Ron Rivera, and one thing I liked about Ron Rivera was he could make fun of himself. This is at his Willie. He had a press conference after he got fired. Not many people do that. Think about yourself.
Yeah.
If I get fired from a job, I'm probably not, super happy to hold a press conference.
And I'm not ready to talk. Definitely.
Yeah, right. Here you go. I'm going off in a hole for a while.
Right.
But Ron, he did that, and he used to have a T-shirt guy who made him T-shirts a lot. I'll show another one later.
Oh, wow, yeah, he definitely was a good sport.
Yeah, missed opportunities. So here's a couple of my favorite all-timers. Some eras have come to an end in Charlotte. That's Luke Kuechly on the left and Greg Olson on the right. These were a couple of guys who were just class guys. A lot of fun to cover, great players.
I say that a lot of people are still as heartbroken as I am to watch Kuechly walk away last year. Yeah.
I know. What a surprise. I was very shocked. He played 8 years. And, some guys like, Tom Brady just finished his 20th. So I thought Kuechly would play 12 or something anyway, but I really think he's never really talked a lot about why. But, he had some injuries and several concussions, or at least a couple. And I think that, the fear of that, that possible that another one came, I think that was part of it.
Yeah, I think definitely.
He just retired, and you'll see him on your TV screen this fall. He's going to become a Fox TV sports announcer, and he'll do that very well.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. Okay, nice. Yeah, I look forward to that.
So next one, yeah. Here's Cam. Cam, his time here ended like most star athletes' time ends in cities. His time here ended a little bit awkwardly. That happens. That is usually the way it is. Most people do not get to walk out on top, like Peyton Manning did with a Super Bowl ring and then just retire.
Right.
He was here, though, for 9 years, and wow, was he ever fun. Don't you think, Willie? I mean, no one really brought more joy than this guy.
Yeah, I mean, and I sort of echo your sentiment. If you think about how Tom Brady ended in New England, he left, and a lot of fans were upset. Even someone like Tom Brady could not go out probably how he wanted to go out, in New England, the same team. But yeah, I agree with you. Cam provided a lot of joy to Panthers fans. I mean, I really enjoyed watching him.
He was and this is he's doing his famous Superman pose here. He was definitely the most fun player, I think, from a fan perspective. I mean, he invented, really the Sunday giveaway, for instance, which is when the players now give the balls to the fans. That wasn't a thing really until Cam, and now that's become a great tradition.
I know. When I finally got to go to a game where I was right at the goal line. This was the game, I believe this was Tampa Bay early last year when he got hurt. And I was hoping to get one of those balls because I was right there and I didn't. But yeah, I know fans look forward to that.
That's a great tradition. Okay. And so now here I'm going to show you a few new players, new era, because this isn't all about history. This is kind of the next steps. And so that's Matt Rule on the left and his wife, Julie, and their 3 children, all very cute. This is the day he was hired about a year ago.
So what do you think about Rule?
I'm a fan so far. Rule is, to me, is extremely smart, and I think he's really understands the game. He's very serious about it. However, all that being said, you still got to have more players, and they don't have enough. Not yet. They don't have enough. But I think once they get them, that Rule can definitely coach him. I mean, I really so far, if Matt Rule were a stock, I would buy it.
Yeah,
I think he's good.
He's impressed me too. I mean, and from the things that I've read about him, and a lot of it comes from you, but other writers, they speak very highly of him, and I can tell just from the past year that the players seem to really like him. So,
yes, yeah, I think so. I have cautious optimism for Matt. Yes, for sure. Next, we'll show a couple of defensive players I'm also very high on. So let's go to the next one. Whoop, one back. Nope. Go two back. One more. There you go.
Well, there we go.
There we go. That's Jeremy Chin with he's intercepting the ball here, but here is a total stud. This guy is really has the chance to be really, really good. Yeah. One of the next, Kuechly types for this defense.
I was just going to say that he has this sort of uncanny ability to be where the ball is, during when he's on the field, he is wherever the ball is. And that is what we all said about Kuechly.
Yes, absolutely. And the next slide is a similar guy. Mm-hmm. This is Brian Burns, the defensive end who Jeremy Chin just finished his rookie year. Brian Burns just finished his second year. So these are two of the building blocks for the future. He's sacking Drew Brees here, knocking the ball loose on a strip sack. But Burns, his nickname is Spider-Man. Here's another guy who's kind of fun. He likes to go into a Spider-Man pose after a sack.
What do you like about Burns? What is it about him?
He's a pretty relentless player, very athletic, and a really joyous kind of player too. Mm-hmm. And I think people got to remember, in a football locker room, man, they take it so seriously, Willie. Mm-hmm. Christian McCaffrey, who's our next slide here, and you can stay there, is one of these types of guys who just takes it so seriously. And I think Christian has admitted, took it too seriously for a while. Mm-hmm. And Cam Newton kind of helped him sort of understand, the phrase isn't you don't work football, you play football. You are playing a kid's game. You just happen to play it well enough to make a ton of money at it, but you're playing. And Brian Burns is a guy who tries to, he enjoys himself. Okay. Here's Christian McCaffrey, hurt for most of last year. And this was one of the real downfalls of the team last year. They just didn't have Christian, who's the best player on the team right now and should be healthy. But he had 3 separate injuries, Willie, and that really kind of short-circuited 2020 for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can tell the team really missed him. He is the kind of player, you don't see that many players that come across our, lifetime, in our lifetime, who can do the things that he does. I mean, it's just amazing.
He is. He's real fun to watch. Mm-hmm. All right, next. A little bit of history. Okay, next one. And here we'll talk a little bit about Sam Mills, who's on the right. We've talked a little about, that's Kevin Green on the left, right. Scoring his only touchdown as a Panther. That was back in 1996. He picked up a fumble.
I remember.
Ran it back. You remember that one?
Yeah, I do.
That was a fun one, and he always had very fond memories of that. One of the last conversations I had with Kevin was about this play. He was telling me about this play and describing it in this very vivid way. And he at the end, if you remember, he didn't have to, but he dove into the end zone and kind of did a pose. And Kevin was a guy who, he dabbled in pro wrestling. He was a friend of Ric Flair's.
Oh yeah.
He had showmanship too.
Mm-hmm. He definitely did.
Sam Mills did not really have a lot of showmanship. He had everything else. And you see him on the right. Sam was a star for the early Panthers teams and almost has made the Hall of Fame. He has not made it yet. He was, in fact, missed it again this weekend.
Oh, wow.
Which was disappointing to Sam's family. For those longtime Panther fans, they will know that Sam Mills died of cancer in 2005. He was only 46 at the time. A very sad story, but mm-hmm. Sam was the guy who also gave them the keep pounding phrase. Keep pounding was invented by Sam Mills, and that is one of his many legacies here.
Right. He's become sort of the heart and soul, that legacy of him, that keep pounding has become the heart and soul of the Carolina.
It really has. His statue's out front, and then you come inside and people are, one side of the stadium is keep and the other side is pounding. And he has a heart and soul is a good way to put it. I may plagiarize that from you, Willie.
Oh, no. It's yours. You can have it.
Here's a historical picture.
Oh
I
yeah.
found this digging through the archives. Y'all got to look at this picture now. So check that out. So that's Jerry Richardson and Mark Richardson. That is where the stadium is right now. They're standing. They're standing in what was basically, I guess, red dirt or sand or something.
Right. This huge empty field in front of
Yeah.
them with the background of a big shiny city, right?
October 93. And if you look closely, some of our skyscrapers weren't built yet either.
Right.
You know, that's you can see back then it was called the Nations Bank building, now Bank of America, and you can see some of the others, but not everything was there, and the stadium wasn't. Remember Panther fans, I said, Willie, this is a badge of honor for Panthers fans. Anyone who drove down to Clemson in 1995 and watched the game. People still talk about, oh, how much fun that was to go. You know, the Panthers played a season in Clemson. Did you ever do that?
I actually, that was my first year of college, so I was in Atlanta watching.
Okay.
Atlanta.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was that they had basically 20 road games that year because everything was you know, at least 150 miles away, but people didn't care. It was a lot of fun.
Oh no, I was excited, even in Atlanta. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. All right, next. We've now seen 26 Panther seasons. As we talked about, we were going to do this at 25, but now we're doing it at 26. This is Dom Capers, the very first Panthers coach. You can see their logo looks a little different and their typeface. That's Jerry Richardson putting on a jacket or something. I don't know what he's putting on him there. That Dom when he was first announced as the Panthers' first coach.
Right.
Matt Rule is now their fifth, so they've cycled through a few, but Dom was a good guy and coached their first 4 seasons.
A defensive guru. Right.
Yes, he was. Blitzburg. Yeah. He came from Pittsburgh and loved to blitz, and he had some really good defenses here. And but then ran into some problems with Kerry Collins. They had some issues. Yeah.
Yeah. You think Kerry Collins was that Kerry Collins really didn't want to be in Charlotte? I'm not sure. But it was. Yeah.
Well, Kerry will tell you that, and we'll start. You know, we're going to get to that. Go ahead, and you can go there, Alex. Yeah. And that's a whole lot of quarterbacks. Let's look back at a few of them. When we get to Kerry, we'll talk a little bit.
Okay.
About that. This is the first ever Panthers quarterback. He did not last long. That is Frank Reich. Remember him?
Came from Buffalo, right?
Yeah, he played at Buffalo and came here and played 3 games as a starter.
Mm-hmm. And
then Kerry Collins took over. But Frank Reich, do you know where he is now? He is the head coach of the Indianapolis Colts. Yeah.
Right.
He is now a head coach in the league and has a good team there. He's become a really well liked head coach. But that was Frank Reich, and then the second quarterback who really made a difference was Kerry Collins. Check this picture out.
Oh, yeah.
This is when we drafted when the Panthers drafted Kerry Collins. We asked him, because he was so young at the time, Kerry, would you mind going to an elementary school and taking a picture to sort of, I don't know, I think our theme was, youth or something. So we found a willing elementary school. Kerry went to the place and he's pretending to raise his hand and answer the question. Look how young he looks. He really was from Penn State and his first ever draft pick in 1995.
It was celebrated. I mean, when he first was drafted, fans were really excited.
They were, absolutely. Some things haven't changed in elementary schools. That rug looks kind of familiar.
Right.
They don't have a smart board and they're not wearing masks, so it must not be.
You can tell it's not.
2021. All right, I think we have another picture, Kerry. Yes, here it is. This is another one that we took. Longtime Charlotteans would probably be able to identify at least 3 of the 4 people in this. That is Kerry Collins. That's Del Curry, better known now as the father of Steph Curry, in the purple. That he was playing for the Hornets at the time. And on the right, of course, is Dale Earnhardt Sr. Yeah. And that is Dale Earnhardt Sr. was so into having this picture taken, he took his daughter to the photo shoot. And so we took a picture of that's Taylor Earnhardt. She was also part of it, but we took this kind of it was, I don't know, 95 or 96 or whatever. And to kind of show the three major sports in Charlotte at
Yeah.
the time.
Yeah, and it's funny that you mentioned that, because I was thinking about this image and how the impact that these major industries, sports industries, NFL, NBA, and NASCAR has had on Charlotte. If you come to the Levine Museum in our sort of fourth module that you go into, it talks about when Charlotte sort of turns the corner and becomes this business center, the center of the South. And it has a lot to do with sports, but we don't talk about it, but we have it in the museum. We talk about the addition of first the Hornets. The NASCAR has sort of always been here, but it sort of reaches that pinnacle around the same time that the Hornets are emerging. And then the Carolina Panthers, that changes the makeup of Charlotte. It does a lot for the city. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think it does. Charlotte, when I first moved here, which was in '94, I thought Charlotte had a little bit of an inferiority complex, honestly. A city that often wanted to be world class. The phrase world class is thrown around a lot. But when they had the Final Four here, which is the first event I ever covered, they had to make a temporary fake Street of Champions, they called it, because there was no downtown bars, restaurants, nothing. But there's just part of they rolled up the sidewalks at 5 o'clock here. And I think that the Panthers and the Hornets, once the Hornets moved downtown, originally they weren't downtown, uptown, I should say.
Right.
Once they moved uptown, that has really helped. That we are a city that now, when we don't have COVID, there's a very active nightlife, and you're never going to have trouble finding a meal in Charlotte anymore. It used to be really hard to find somewhere to eat, after 10 o'clock, no longer. But so, yeah, I think sports is definitely a part of that.
And for a lot of people, I think that, looking who watch sports, this is their introduction to Charlotte. When you have a sports franchise, when you're discussed on Sunday afternoons or whenever the NBA is playing, that is sort of the big stage for a city that is looking to grow, who has always been looking to grow, right?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, remember it used to be people would get Charlotte confused with Charlottesville.
Right.
Or they would get it confused with Charleston. They all these CH cities. I don't think that happens as much anymore.
Yeah.
So another quarterback, this is one of the most popular Panthers ever. That is Jake Delhomme.
Oh, yeah.
I'm giving you a little trivia question then. Excuse me. Yeah, Jake was something else. And in his very first season, they reached the Super Bowl.
Right.
He brought him to the playoffs a couple of times after that.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a little trivia question for you guys down there. Think about it. How many games are the Panthers under 500 in 26 years of football? So if you added up all their wins, all their losses, they're actually 15 games under 500, which is not great.
No, it's not.
They've had some great seasons. They've had a number of seasons like last year where they were 5-11.
Right.
So the answer is the same as Patrick Mahomes' jersey number. If you saw Patrick Mahomes getting sacked at the Super Bowl, you'll know that was number 15. Yes. So they were.
And this is something that David Tepper is saying that he's trying to change the culture. He wants a winning franchise. That is unacceptable in Tepper's eyes.
Right. He wants a sustained winning franchise. The difference here, I guess, has been they've had some breakout years, but then they've fallen back into the pack repeatedly. And so they want, they would love to establish something that lasts. And that's where this generation wants to go. We'll see.
We'll see, right.
Here's Cam Newton and Ron Rivera. They did the closest probably to that sustained success. They made the playoffs 3 years in a row in their time here. This was from 2011. They did make the Super Bowl once. Ron, of course, is now the coach at Washington. Fought off cancer this year and kept coaching. And Cam was in New England. Now it's unclear where he'll be, but it could be Washington. He may join Ron again. That's
right. And they had a pretty good run together. I think they did. I do.
They did. They were linked at the hip here for sure. Okay, I'll show you another one. This one I just put in because it's our photographer, Jeff Seiner. I really think it's one of the best pictures he's taken. You can see so much here. Look at that snow.
Right.
That's in Green Bay. Yeah. This
In
was
the
only
back,
in a couple of years ago. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just saying that it is a great picture. All the fans in the background, who are sort of faceless, but this one panther in the middle of this sort of frozen, like you say, frozen tundra. I like it.
Yeah, he won an award for this and well deserved. It was, they played very well, but still ended up losing to Green Bay. This was not last year, but the year before. And that's Kyle Allen.
Right.
Kyle Allen, who another in their series of quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
And here comes the next one. And that's Teddy Bridgewater, number 5, who played this year and played pretty well, especially in the first half, and then did not play too well at all in the fourth quarter. And that's why I say one and done up here with a question mark. I don't know.
Right.
We don't know yet. Will he be the starter next year or not? It's an open question because they're definitely flirting with some other options.
Yeah. It's in the newspaper every day. I mean, that the sentiment is that the Panthers are moving on and that they have sort of given up. But, as you said, he played really well the first half of the season. But, we don't know. We don't know.
Yeah, it's who knows? Teddy may end up being the starter again, but it won't be for lack of trying. I know I will tell y'all on this call, and we've written this in the paper too, but they are still actively, they would love to trade for Deshaun Watson. If they could figure out how to do that, they'd love to.
Yeah.
Here's just kind of a random one. This guy was not a QB. We've highlighted him for you, but he turned out to be more than a footnote in Charlotte sports history. Go ahead to the next one. And there is LeVar Ball. LeVar Ball, for those who are not huge sports fans, LeVar Ball has mainly become well known for bragging about his 3 basketball playing sons.
Right.
But before that, he actually was a Carolina Panther briefly. In their first season, he never got into a game. But as you see, he got into the team picture here. That's LeVar. He is right. Jerry Richardson is in black and white, but he is right in front of Jerry Richardson, right behind him, I should say. And here's his son, better known than LeVar. This is LaMelo Ball.
Oh, he's turned out to be special too. Yeah.
We're going to do a talk like this one time, maybe, Willie, about the Charlotte Hornets once LaMelo Ball gets them to a higher peak because, he is something else.
Oh, yeah.
He's 19 years old. Yeah.
And I've been a Hornets fan since middle school, so definitely we got to do that.
Yeah, we'll do that sometime. But he is their new generation for sure. Mm-hmm. Okay, next. Yes, so this is the last time the Panthers went to the Super Bowl. Willie's shaking his head. It was a rough day, and that's Von Miller knocking the ball away from Cam Newton. And that Super Bowl reminded me a whole lot of what we just saw. We can go to the next slide. Here it is. That's Patrick Mahomes. That is not the ideal way to throw a football pass.
Right.
Parallel to the ground. And yet this almost got completed. I mean, he's amazing athlete. However, he was nearly sacked or almost, hit on every pass.
Every play, yeah. I mean, you're right. I mean, it is eerily similar to the Carolina Panthers game. You have a hot quarterback coming into the game, a young new quarterback who finally appears as though he's got it. He knows how to make it happen, and then he gets to the Super Bowl, and then he runs into a buzzsaw of a defense. And Tampa Bay was the Denver Broncos of that year. I mean,
Exactly. No, you're exactly right. That's what happened. I think if they had switched the quarterbacks, Willie, Tampa Bay would have won by even more. I mean, Patrick Mahomes is better than Tom Brady, honestly, right now.
Right.
But it didn't matter because the defenses were so unequal.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go to the next one. And here's a shot talking about Tom Brady. How long has this guy been playing? That was 17 years ago, Panther fans. He is shaking hands with Rodney Peete, a fairly forgettable Panther quarterback, but he was the backup that year. But that's in 2004, and here Brady is still winning Super Bowls in 2021.
And was that his second Super Bowl?
His second of 7. Yes. And, that was the game that was super exciting. The Panthers tied it in the fourth quarter, and then Brady led after John Casey kicked a kickoff out of bounds. Brady led them to a winning field goal. So that was another heartbreaker.
Yeah.
Okay, next. So every sports market, this is one of the, this is what happens when you get pro sports. You have some great moments. Charlotte has had some fantastic moments with the Panthers. A lot of them. Mm-hmm. They've also had some bad moments on the field, and then one horrendous moment that on the right there is Carruth. That is a picture of Ray Carruth, and that picture we have sort of mocked up. It became a podcast that I did. If you look up Carruth on your iPhone, if you hit the purple tab on your iPhone, you can find Carruth, or you can find it anywhere where you get your podcast. But that was we were proud of that. It was 7 or 8 part episode, I should say, series. Right. And we're proud mostly, Willie, because we kept the focus as much as we could on the victims, right. Sandra and Chancellor Lee Adams, and not so much on Ray Carruth. We tried to explain the story even-handedly. And so that's been probably the story. If I were to say, I would like you guys to read or listen to one thing that I've ever done, I would probably say this podcast, or if you just search my name in Carruth, I'd like you to take a look at that, because that really has been a journey for me. That story.
Yeah, I would say that's probably definitely the darkest moment in Carolina Panthers history. But it's something I definitely want to check out. I remember Sharika Adams. I was, I think we talked a little bit about this. I went to middle school with Sharika Adams, rode the bus with her every day.
Wow.
Just terrible. And I think I had seen her earlier in the summer. So, I mean, it was just heartbreaking for people who knew her.
Yes, absolutely. And for those who don't know that story, Sharika Adams was Ray Carruth's pregnant girlfriend when she was murdered in cold blood, a drive-by shooting orchestrated by Ray Carruth in 1999.
Yeah.
So Ray Carruth served 18 years. He is now out of prison. And but Sharika Adams, yes, she was 24 when she was murdered. And yet, this is the amazing part, Willie, and yet she saved her child. She was shot 4 times and saved her child. So a breaking story, but also inspiring the Adamses and what they've been able to accomplish. And I will say this, the Panthers have really embraced the Adams over the last couple of years. Didn't used to be the case, but they finally have, and that was really good to see.
Yeah, that is.
Okay, next. Oh, okay. So here's your regular old billionaire next door. That's David Tepper, Panthers owner. He's a hedge fund billionaire and bought the team about 2.5 years ago.
Right.
And he's ready to win. He's ready to win for sure. And, he's putting his stamp on things, has hired Matt Rule and has a new GM now.
And comes out of the Steelers organization.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. David Tepper, personable guy. I like him.
Yeah.
Next. And here's Ron Rivera's last T-shirt reveal as the Panthers head coach. He, at the end of his news conference, he showed that, and I show that partly just to say thank you again, Willie, for having me tonight. This is the end of the slideshow portion of the presentation, so we can take questions now from the audience, or just you and I. You can ask me some questions or whatever you'd like to say, but I do want to thank you again for allowing me to come.
Oh, no, thank you. This is a pleasure for me. I haven't seen any questions, but I know I have a few questions. I was thinking about all of the times that you said you interviewed certain fans. Who was your favorite favorite athlete to interview? And then who was probably not so much a favorite?
Well, yeah, that's a good one. There's been several that I really enjoyed. So in terms of like because remember, we see these guys so often,
Right.
probably 3 or 4 times a week. I understand they get tired of journalists asking them questions sometimes, and especially, let's say, after they threw the game-ending interception,
Right.
or they made the game-ending penalty, or they fumbled, or
Mhm.
whatever. And so my I respect all pro athletes. I really respect someone who will stand there and answer questions after something like that happens. And
Yeah.
they're obligated to do it, but also they could just say, basically nothing, or they could really explain it. That's a hard thing to do if you think
I think
about your as we
Jake,
talked about.
Jake
So
Delhomme
some
was.
of the guys who did that really well,
Uh-huh.
Jake Delhomme was one. Steve Berline, who was an old quarterback, was one like that too. Mike Minter, who's
Mhm.
now the college football coach at Campbell
Yeah.
University, was a guy. Sam Mills,
Mhm.
Kevin Green. There's some currently. Teddy Bridgewater, honestly, was really good. He won the. We have a little award, us pro football writers in Charlotte, that we give locally to the guy who kind of handles the media the best, and Teddy Bridgewater won that
Yeah.
this year.
He seems
As
like
far as
that.
difficult ones, there's guys who have been difficult over the years. I haven't really had a huge problem with any. There's always been, they might get mad for a
Mhm.
day or two, and that goes with coaches sometimes too.
Yeah.
You did have George Seifert very angry with me one time,
Mhm.
because I wrote that he should be fired about 3 weeks before he was fired, and those 3 weeks in between were not good. He stared daggers through me every time he saw me.
He probably blames you, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that me and the 1 in 15 record he posted in that
All
last season.
right. So, what would I guess your favorite season?
Yeah, I would say probably, they've had 3 that would be the top 3. One was 1996.
Right.
Old time Panther fans will remember that was only their second year, and they were doing everything for the first time, and they got to the Final Four before losing to Green
Right.
Bay. And then the 2 Super Bowl years between the 2003 and 2015, when they went 15-1. But I guess if I was going to have to, and this would be more of a personal note, but because in 2015 I have 4 kids.
Mhm.
And my 2 oldest boys were old enough to enjoy that season, and they are big Panther fans. And so they were able to, we bought them tickets sometime. Remember that Thanksgiving Day game the Panthers played on Thanksgiving that year, and picked off Tony Romo a couple of times. And,
Yeah. Mhm.
they have some great memories of that year. And so I'd say, I guess 2015 had a bad ending, but what a journey to get.
It really was. I mean, I thought we were invincible that year. I did. I
Seemed
walked.
like yeah,
I could,
I
yeah.
know.
Yeah.
But sports are like that though, it turns on a dime
Yeah.
sometimes.
All right. I think we got a question coming in from the audience. Let's see. Okay. Let's see. So I'd love a breakdown review of the first 2+ decades of quarterbacks, from Reich to Collins, Pete, Delhomme to Cam, and what each of those dynasties meant to the team and the fans.
Sure. Yeah, that's a good question. Well, one time not too long ago, I actually ranked the Panthers quarterbacks, all that had started at least a game or two. And so I'll tell you, maybe the best way to answer that is tell you who I thought were the very best ones. I put Cam Newton at number 1. I think Cam not only was the best athlete they've ever had there, but he also had the best results, really. I mean, to get to the Super Bowl and to win Most Valuable Player.
Right.
And no one else has done that. Most Valuable Player in the whole league in
Mhm.
2015. I put Jake Delhomme as second, because Jake had some just indefinable, intangible qualities. I had Steve Berline actually as third. Steve Berline was a very good, underrated quarterback. And I think I had Kerry Collins as fourth.
Okay.
Kerry's time here ended in 1998, when he told Dom Capers, that his heart wasn't in the Panthers anymore. And Dom Capers released him, fired him within a week or so.
Yeah.
That was a big controversy at the time. Kerry, ended up taking the New York Giants to the Super Bowl a few years later. He was still a very good player, but as he's admitted later, he struggled with alcohol
Mm-hmm.
part of the time with the Panthers and had to get that straightened out. And then I put Teddy Bridgewater, the fifth and final one of those guys I'll mention is Teddy, because I think Teddy is a good quarterback. He's just got to solve this fourth quarter problem.
Yeah.
That's the problem with Teddy. They've had some other, they had Vinny Testaverde here for a while. They had probably the worst quarterback they've ever had is Jimmy Clausen. He was really, really bad.
A wasted
nice guy, but really bad.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on that. Delhomme, on paper and physically, he wasn't much of a quarterback, you didn't think, but he got things done. And when you put the ball in his hand, he seemed to get things done. I appreciate that about him.
Yes, absolutely, he did.
Okay, we got another question. How has the fan base and fan culture changed over time?
Well, that's a good question. Thank you, Eric. He is he's right that it has changed over time. The Panthers were a very young team. When they began, they were like a baby learning to walk, and fans were a little bit like that too. These fans came from other places. They knew sort of what was going on, but I remember Blake Brockermeyer, one of the very first Panthers players, writing the Charlotte Observer some guidelines to tell Panther fans how to cheer. He said they were getting too excited and cheering too much when the offense had the ball, and it was causing false start penalties. You don't see that anymore. Panther fans understand that. And the thing is now, Willie, there's kind of this second generation of Panther fans. My kids, lots of other people's kids, where the parents or the grandparents have grown older, and then they've seen the kids sort of embrace it. And so these kids have grown up and they've always had the Panthers. The Panthers have been around their entire lives.
Right.
So as the Panthers get this second generation, I think, and they need to start winning again. After those two things happen, I think we'll see that stadium packed in the same way that it was in, some of these great seasons we're talking about.
Yeah, I get that. I could see because I know the first generation of Panthers fans, a lot like myself, we had to, get warm to the Panthers. First of all, we didn't have experiences going to games. If you were in Charlotte, you were either a fan of the Redskins or the Falcons. Those were the two dominant teams in this area. And it's not like we made it down to those games a lot. So, yeah.
Right. Yeah, and you're right, because those were the teams that were on TV all the time.
Right.
Everyone was a fan of somebody else because there were, until the Panthers had to kind of win over the fan base.
Right.
And, they started that with the PSLs and they had to develop their own traditions organically, like keep pounding, no marketing director made that up.
Right.
That just happened.
Yeah.
And those sorts of things kind of have to happen.
I was a huge Oilers fan before we got the Panthers. But yeah, great. So we have another question from Robert Aiden. Any insight as to when Tepper builds a new stadium? I saw, we saw the picture of Jerry Richardson and his son in the field. What's next?
Yeah, that's a good question. Thank you, Robert. What is next, in my opinion, is they will end up building a stadium at the old Charlotte Pipe Foundry site, which is almost across the street from the current stadium. As to when, if I had to guess, I'd say it would open in about, I hope I'm still working at the newspaper, but I don't know that I will be. Let's say, 2032 or something like that. It's a ways away. It would need funding. They'll need to, obviously get over the COVID hurdle. They've got to figure out, they don't even have a site or anything. So it'll be a while. And my guess is that, the whole site there is going to be developed and redeveloped and have restaurants and who knows what else. I mean, there may be a casino there at one point, Willie. I mean, the way sports and gambling are becoming so intertwined these days. I would not be surprised to see that happen.
Right, and they're popping up all around Charlotte on the outskirts anyway. So yeah, it makes sense. Yeah.
And David Tepper is interested in the the legal gambling aspect of pro sports. He knows that is part of the future, the FanDuel and the DraftKings and the sports books that are popping up in more and more states. It's just a matter of time before North Carolina legalizes even more of that.
Right. Well, Scott, I really appreciate you coming on and agreeing to do this. We're going to have to do a second part, definitely, because I could talk to you all day about sports. I love sports. Is there anything that you'd like to say before we end?
I would just like to thank you, Willie, and everyone who sees this call either live or on the tape for reading my stuff all these years. As I tell people, I am so happy when someone says they read it, whether they agree or disagree. I'm just glad it didn't line a bird cage without at least being read once, or go in the recycling bin. So thank you. Please, and I will make one pitch for the Charlotte Observer. A digital subscription is not expensive, and it will save you money because you will learn what's going on. The vaccination coverage we have right now is unparalleled. The local coverage you can get from, as you mentioned, in newspapers. And I'm a sort of an amateur historian. I like to go back and read what we did 50 and 100 years ago. But newspapers are your rough draft of history, and they're going to help you not only find the next cool place to eat, but they're going to help you in life. So please think of the Charlotte Observer for a digital subscription, and obviously think of Levine Museum, because that's two great institutions in this town.
I really appreciate that. Yeah, we appreciate that at Levine. I can tell you, newspapers, just to echo your sentiment, newspapers are critical. I always say, I'm writing a biography of a journalist who had a saying that an informed public is an intelligent public. And, that's where we get our information, and has been for a very long time. We can't, abandon newspapers for social media. We need newspapers to keep us informed and give us the kinds of insight that we don't normally get in other places. So again, we really appreciate you coming on, Scott. And for all of the our visitors, audience members, and listeners, we appreciate their continued support for Levine Museum of the New South. Please check out our website for the other programs that we have going on this month. February is Black History Month. So continue to support us, and we'll continue to provide great programming like we have just done tonight. So thank you.
Thank you.
Take care, Scott.
Take care, Willie.